to come into week 4 on a high. New patch means new champs, means new look for a lot of these squads.
Absolutely does. Now we're seeing the Pantheon banned out of respect for Mickey. Love to see it. The Gragas and the J4 banned away. Now, Caedrel talked about liking both of these champions so much, and yet I see Excel ban them all the time. So we're going to have to see what their priority is going to be. Syndra and the Aphelios, the final bans, of course, for SK.
Well, right now I'm looking at the Elise over for the side of Excel, primarily because with Gragas banned away, there's not a lot of great other AP junglers, and we know Mickey loves to play a lot of these physical damage mid laners. So we've seen Caedrel do the Talia in the past as another AP option. The Rumble that Expect hovered is a favorite for him as well, but I mean, this is a big surprise.
All right, currently Yuumi has yet to win a game this split in the LEC.
Okay.
It's been played once before. It was not a good look. Gonna have to see if there's a higher ceiling on this champion and what it can get done and how SK Gaming want to respond. I'm gonna guess that's not what I would guess. I was gonna guess blind pick Ornn for Sacre because he's done it 5 times, but potentially it's going to be the Sett now for Sacre. Big difference in terms of relative champ.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of where this goes, this will be the first Sett game for the entirety of SK Gaming. I mean, you're sort of joking about Sacre's Ornn. He's played Ornn 5 out of the 6 games, so if this is for him up in the top lane, that would be a pretty big departure. Now, locking in the Misfortune alongside it, we're already seeing a lot of AoE, a lot of area of effect damage for those big sort of wombo combos. Misfortune was, you know, nerfed a bit on this patch, lost some attack speed, so it means that there's more emphasis on her landing big ultimates right inside of a team fight, because her just cutting down a frontliner shouldn't be quite as powerful as it was on previous patches.
And now we have the Ezreal once again after an underwhelming performance in game 1. Excel want to try their hands on it here in game 2. The Ezreal Yuumi lane, of course, one of those lanes that in theory is very powerful, but obviously very hard to get the maximum value out of. We'll see what Patrik and Torre can do with it.
This is the Aatrox Yuumi I was talking about in last game's draft. I was like, Aatrox plus Yuumi is a super, super powerful combination when she can just attach to a frontliner with that built-in healing with some mobility too. Just means it's going to be much easier to stay alive and actually reach the backline of someone like the Misfortune here. So I think already I'm seeing more thought put into this Yuumi pick than maybe we saw in the last game.
And now the Karthus, our second Karthus, it looks like the meta has shifted a lot more than I expected.
Look, Drakos in just 1 game and 1 half of a draft, I have learned so much about how scrims have gone down this week.
Champions that have done well: Ezreal, Yuumi, Karthus. Champions that have not done well: everything else.
Yeah, clearly Senna not doing well, but Aphelios with a ban in this game and a first pick in the last one, still very high on the priority list. Now, if we're actually looking at the overall compositions from these two teams, again, the Excel comp looks a lot like that Mad Lions comp, where it's a lot about this Ezreal's mobility, taking slow fights, playing around these skill shots, whereas SK Gaming, much like OG in game 1, tons of area of effect damage and zone control too that can be really frustrating for an Ezreal to play into.
And I like that we're seeing the Olaf now banned away. Would definitely be very frustrating for them to try to set up any kind of team fight with a Karthus MF against a champion that can just ignore you and run straight into melee range. Also, paired with a Yuumi, as we've seen in other leagues, can be just about impossible to kill.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get like an Ornn or something like that from SK still.
If we just see like each team taking half of the previous game's draft and just swapping them across the sides.
Yeah, because I mean, Ornn's a fine matchup into the Aatrox, right? And Sett could still go into the mid lane here. So we expect SK to go for a support pick right now. Could be that Leona that pairs very nicely alongside the Misfortune. So just keep piling those circles on top of each other right here and build yourself a good comp. And now they can save that last pick because they already have a lot of physical damage. They already have a lot of magic damage. Now it's about rounding out that composition. And I honestly think an Ornn would slot in super, super well to add into that long-range initiation, to set up for the Misfortune, to allow Sett to get in range as well. Like, that would put this comp into a very, very nice.
And honestly, I loved watching Ornn into the Ezreal. Just a beefy front line against that Ezreal makes it feel impossible to get anything done. Good call on the Leona. Does get locked in here from the side of SK Gaming. Excel taking their time debating on this Azir pick. Obviously, a lot of strong scaling potential in that champion. But instead, it is going to be the Zoe now locked in. Not a lot of innate synergy with the Yuumi, but can be really strong in terms of setting up picks and denying a lot of the combo potential of this enemy lineup.
Yeah, that's the thing. Caedrel now probably goes, I mean, he probably goes for a physical damage jungler, but you don't want something that necessarily has to hard commit. You want something with a little bit of an out option here as well, because, oh, no, I actually really like this. I think Sejuani is a good pick here.
Here we go. Obviously buffed on the most recent patch. A little bit extra early attack speed will make the jungle clear better. On top of that, pairing it with an Aatrox means we have that infamous melee combo. Can it quickly stun lock the opposition?
Yeah, because I was originally thinking like Caedrel goes like for the Talia or something, right? But with a Zoe in mid lane, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, Sejuani's early clear was buffed on this patch. Her passive gets a little bit less effectiveness as it will now get broken on jungle camps. So means that her potential to like skirmish in the river after like taking a camp or something means she will be more vulnerable here. But this is spicy, Drakos.
These are two very cocktail compositions. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, I get the vision on the side of Excel. You got Ezreal. He's pretty strong relatively early. You've got some good mid-game potential on the side of SK. We got a little bit of wombo combo, a little bit of global threat. We got a nice bit to add to that in the bottom lane. Then there's a Kassadin. He's there. He's chilling. He's obviously late game scaling. He's obviously impossible to get away from. He's going to devour that Zoe as we get later in the game. But still, this is going to be so hard to pull off, I feel like.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting situation here because with the Kassadin in mid lane, you don't really get a ton of priority coming out of that middle lane. Now, Caedrel on the Sejuani means he can't invade quite as much as he would have liked to. Karthus should be able to sort of, you know, poke her out in any sort of 1v1. Karthus will have the upper hand. So it feels like there's like a mid laner on Excel side that wants to get aggressive next to a jungler that maybe doesn't quite necessarily. Although post level 6, you'd like to gank that lane, but then Kassadin has Riftwalk. So there's a lot of different pieces here, Drakos. There's a lot we're going to have to digest once we get into this game, but the sort of cliff notes here is that Excel have a comp built around mobility, built around poke, built around taking slow fights around their skill shots, whereas SK, it's all about big AoEs and then unlocking Kassadin at level 11 and 16.
Remember, big stakes for both of these teams. For Excel, it's a matter of moving up, starting to contest teams like Mad Lions, who just lost in the previous game, starting to move towards the top of the table. On the opposite side for SK, it's honestly about getting out of the bottom of the barrel, the vitalities of the world, the Schalkes of the world who are still struggling to find a win, and SK who have, you know, it's also, I think, been a similar struggle for this team. I think they've been spared the scorn of the community because they have found a win, but definitely need to show us more in this game and the matches to come.
So all these mid-tier teams need to start picking up wins against each other. Always love to see the Excel fans in the crowd. Oh, that
all
was
right.
like...
Excel Esports, la 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 la. Also
I
dance
said
on.
you love to see him in the crowd, and then he like dabs like 8 times in my face. Like, I don't know.
Say the thing when we put the camera on you. Say the
2019.
thing. Wow. Oh my god. Too pretentious for your own good. A bit of a delay getting into game. Now we get a slow pan in on the face of Youngbuck.
Smile. Smile. There you go. Okay.
League officials are investigating the server issues. We're investigating Youngbuck's face.
We have different priorities, Drakos.
Okay, so like I do want to talk a little bit about this draft. So you talked about mid lane, obviously. So Caedrel not necessarily can't really do anything even if Mickey does have lane priority just because of how strong Trick can be.
Right.
But top lane's really where I want to focus because it has 2 big hit points. I feel like Expect has been relatively strong for this team overall, and I think Sacre, I don't know if he's been weak or if he's just been stuck on Ornn duty. And I think that's something we have to figure out in this game when he has more of an opportunity to show off.
Yeah, because Sacre this year has just been really weird to me because when I remember this guy, it came from like EU Masters in spring last year where he was always playing these range top lanes.
Cannons,
he was
the karmas.
And he dominated every lane.
Yes.
He averaged like plus like 25 CS at 15. I'm just like, that's insane. And now he's on tank duty, so it's not that same style that he found so much success on in the past. It's clearly trying to play more for the team here. And now that he's being allowed to go towards the set, he has a little bit more individual agency. But this is also a lane where you brought up Caedrel earlier. I think Caedrel on the Sejuani, top lane's almost his best bet to look for these types of plays when you have a Sejuani next to a melee champion to sort of accelerate that season.
Well, the setup's just so easy for those 2 champions. Both have a decent amount of CC that they can pack on their own. Obviously, combined, the synergy is very much real. Additionally, the bottom lane is going to be interesting to me because I hate Ezreal Yuumi. Now, that's old. Those are my old grudges showing through just because last time they were in meta, it was compared to the Kaisas and the Xayahs of the world. Just not a very exciting lane to watch, if I'm honest. But I'm curious to see what it looks like here, especially against a SK lineup that does not have a traditional hard tank. Now, Sett will be relatively tanky, but also Ezreal is his worst nightmare. With a Frozen Fist, he actually just cannot get near this duo.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for Sett to sort of come around and get into these fights, as you mentioned. I think that's where almost this Kassadin comes into play for SK. So while Sacre is going to be pretty much relegated to punching the faces of Sejuani and Aatrox in these fights, that's where Kassadin wants to come in around on a flank, use his mobility over walls to find the backline of Patrik and Mickey. and get in their faces. And if you can get them to like blow an arcane shift, all of a sudden now it becomes so much easier for Limit to throw down his own CC and try to actually lock this guy down.
Yeah, and we saw in the previous game what a Leona can really do to the likes of an Ezreal or a LeBlanc. You know, obviously not always the most reliable, but connecting that Zenith Blade when you have the damage follow-up like an MF, like a Kassadin, should still be a death sentence despite all the escape tools that Ezreal has.
I think the biggest difference here between SK's and Origin's comp, though, is the amount of like reliable engage CC. Because yes, they have the Leona, but they don't have the GP ult around it. They don't have the Ornn ultimate around it either. So if Patrik just dodges the Zenith Blade or Torre on this Yuumi picks up a Mikhail's Crucible, all of a sudden, Ezreal should be pretty free in fights outside of that Kassadin that's going to be seeking for him. And that's really where, in these late games, like if we're talking like level 16, like 4 or 5 items on pretty much everyone, it's going to be a battle, I think, between Jenax and Patrik to see who can stay alive.
Absolutely has to be. Because I think the thing about Mickey is that he's so happy not to see a GP on the enemy side because Zoe has like basically fake mobility, right? Like if you throw a GP ult on one side of the portal jump, she's getting hit by the GP ult.
And look, if you flash on top of her, she has mobility now. So
Which Kassadin doesn't really need to do is the good news. GP probably wouldn't have needed to do it either, but have to see what Mickey also can do here because he has been a lot on these melee champions, a lot of the more, let's say, unconventional picks like the Pantheon. That's why you see a band away here. So I'm curious what he looks like on a more traditional mage in this matchup.
Yeah, and Zoe's not a super easy champion to play into a lot of these picks on SK sides side either. Rather, where you know, if you miss a bubble, you're out of the fight for 11 seconds, almost effectively. When you can't walk forward, or you get punched in the face by a Karthus, or you know, Jenax jumping on you with this Kassadin. So for him, it is going to be about trying to unlock in this mid game, look for good bubbles, setups alongside the Sejuani. That's where Excel's sort of long range initiation does come from, as well as a flank by the Aatrox with the Yuumi potentially even does give you these options. The big difference there is going to be that Excel lack a lot of consistent DPS the later we get into the game, whereas Trix Karthus is only going to continue to ramp up even higher right next to Kassadin too.
Yeah, and it's always, I just feel like it's such a huge question about execution when we look at late game DPS because it's mostly not there, but like we've all seen the Aatrox highlight reels. The Darkened Blade just does not have a cooldown when you get late enough in the game. So outside of that perfect dream scenario, but I'm wondering if XL are the kind of team that can find that fantastic Aatrox setup. However, as we get ready, as we're remaking the lobbies, there's a few more issues that we have to get sorted out. We are going to send it back to the analyst desk before we take it back into game 2.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, exactly. Let's turn a negative into a positive and have an extra opportunity to provide some additional insight and thoughts. Now the draft is all locked in. Before we do jump into this game, Vedi and Frost hanging out. You kind of going to echo some of the similar sentiments. You leaning towards the left-hand side of the screen on that draft?
Yeah, I definitely think that the casters have really covered it. The one thing that I wanted to immediately jump on that we were talking about backstage, because Medic brought up the good point, he's like, by the priority pick of the Yuumi, they could be trying to force the enemy team to respond with Soraka, because giving away Yuumi and Soraka double heals seems scary, and I just felt immediately that SK don't play Soraka, or they're not comfortable playing Soraka, because they also banned it in second phase, and I think it's just a really good tell of there are certain teams that don't have the necessary flexibility in draft, and time again with SK, I'm starting to see some of those holes, especially on high priority champions. The fact that SK themselves banned it when they had the opportunity to grab something, I think is a big red flag to keep track of as we go further in the split.
I'm just happy that we see Sacre on a couple more champions that aren't Ornn for a change. The dude has played so many Ornn games.
The number one thing he hears this split, Ornn's a good pick here.
What I think is quite interesting, I didn't get to listen in depth to what the cast was saying. I noticed that they talked about a strong mid-game from XL, and they talked about the scaling advantage from SK. One of the things I've been thinking a lot of recently when it comes to drafts is when it comes to scaling, you've got to be thinking about, even though a champion might have good late game damage, how does it look in the context of the game, right? And when we think about XL's comp, a lot of their late game damage comes from poke. And so you think about, okay, how easy is it for SK's comp to actually get on top of the poke? So you then contrast it to things like Leona. Well, okay, Leona maybe not the most reliable way of getting on top, but still a pretty solid engage. Kassadin, on the other hand, is one of the best ways to dive on top. And I think that was the champion that came out last pick, and why I'm a big fan of it. Because not only does Kassadin have the strongest, or one of the strongest dueling powers in the late game in a side lane, but his wave clear can get ridiculous when he's stacking up his ultimate, and he has that level 16. But also, it's very easy for him to just out DPS these poke champions because they can't keep their distance against him. At level 16, that ultimate is on like a 2-second cooldown, and he can just keep diving on top of you. And when you have someone like a Karthus that can just facilitate by providing that ultimate, getting that extra damage down, it means that in a side lane, I think Excel's going to really struggle to stop SK in the late game of dealing with this Kassadin pick.
And as a small caveat to that, it's always the assumption that Kassadin is basically not a champion until he gets access to those higher points into ultimate, which just isn't true.
Yeah.
He actually has a lot of decent or okay matchups in the mid lane. Kassadin is not worthless before level 6. He actually has decent trade patterns there, so it is something to take into account that he can be a factor before level 16.
It certainly can. Keep your eye on Karthus early. If you've just joined us and are wondering, Caster, please stop talk, show game. You don't panic. We can, and we will. The league officials are remaking the draft exactly as it just was, and we'll be jumping into it once it's concluded. So XLSK is just moments away. No
Why gotta do Twitch chat dirty like that?
The amount of tweets I get on a daily basis, like, why don't they just start the game? Analysts, stop talk. I'm like, do you understand how this world works?
So you put that on your resume, you're like, I'm fluent in English, German, and Twitch chat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You just say, like, Pog and Kappa, and they all think you're cool. That's pretty much it.
Well, you're already hitting it off with the Twitch chat.
I'm hanging out with you guys, I get it.
Yeah. But I'm going to bring us back to the draft.
Yes, please do.
Nice-hearted, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to hard pivot right back into the draft.
Full 180.
Because I want to talk about the XL draft and talk about something that I think many fans have been hearing a lot about when it comes to like what is a good draft, right? And I'm one of those people that doesn't really like to say X or Y won the draft. I prefer to look at the options. And normally when people look at who won or lost the draft, it largely comes down to ease of execution. Now, the thing about XL is it's very easy for them to get priority in the mid lane, right? Kassadin, while he's not a completely useless champion in the early game, he doesn't have good push at all. And Zoe has one of the best pushes in the early game out of anyone. Now, admittedly, when you look across the board, you can see Crownshot and Limit playing the Misfortune and Leona should give them prio in this lane, give them a strong 2 versus 2. And the Sett, also known for actually having a very strong laning phase. Even after the nerfs that he's had on this patch, he can actually push and get easy priority against a champion like an Aatrox. And we've been hearing a lot about that from many of our pros recently. So a lot of this game for XL in the early game falls on the shoulders of Mickey and Caedrel being able to work together. They've got to use their mid prio in order to advance and pressure these other side lanes. And use the long range of Zoe to set up for traps, look for dives, and see if they can find any opportunities, because if they don't relieve this pressure, SK is going to be able to transition into the late game in a pretty healthy state. And
just to quickly return to some of the points I was learning all about, the patch 10.3 and the changes. Something worth observing is that a lot of the changes are going to be visible in this game. We get to see more from the change Sedge on Caedrel, but also getting to see Sett and how that shapes up. Also the jungle changes, we get to see more from that Karthus. We're getting to see a lot of the things we talked about earlier on in that ready check, and getting to see how they play out and flex.
Particularly the Yuumi, which is, I was actually very surprised how high valued Yuumi was in this game and the last one. Kind of going back to Vedius's point though about like execution and specifically looking at Excel's draft. Excel are a team that aren't as dependent on monster objectives or winning 5v5 team fights to move the chains or kind of accelerate the pace of the game. I kind of think of that as a rather basic way to play League of Legends that a lot of our bottom teams are reliant on. Although, are we in?
It looks like I'm seeing fist bumps, I'm seeing talking.
Okay, I'll cut it.
It's time to cut this one short, and we're going to jump back into the action and get this game underway.
Here we go, the moment you've been waiting for exactly how long it took us to get into the game. I'm not sure exactly how much time that was. It is XL versus SK, 3-3 to the 2-4. Potential for SK to tie up, potential for XL to tie up. Mad Lions, another competition. XL Esports. La 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 la. I gotta be honest, I was skeptical last year when it kicked off, but it is growing on me, XL.
Just getting better and better.
Here's the thing, Ender.
What's the thing?
We've talked about the draft so much.
We talked about it. The analyst deck talked about it.
We talked about it, and I want to talk about it again. I'm just kidding. I want to talk a little bit about the top lane matchup. This one is a really interesting one for me because Sacre, as mentioned on the desk, is a guy that we haven't really seen outside of Ornn. 6 games, 5 of them on Ornn. 3 isolated deaths, not great. But I'm wondering, Ender, if you believe that this is the chance for him to turn this around, to show us a new side of Sacre.
I think there's opportunity here, but it's going to be difficult because when I look at how Excel want to play, especially this early game, like I think Caedrel might get involved around top lane early on when you consider like having a Sejuani on your team to want to gank for these melee lanes. So it'll be up to Sacre to sort of flex a new muscle here on this set. And he's already doing something interesting in his rune choice in particular. He's going for the Aftershock. This is something we saw a little bit on 10.2, but on the new patch, of course, he's going to proc that with his E at level 1, whereas prior you would take W at level 1, but that lost a lot of the cooldown on it. Oh boy.
Patrik taking a ton of damage here. Crownshot stepping forward. Huge overstep from the Excel bottom lane. Apparently the players were not happy with the direction we were taking this commentary because they want to make it about the bottom side.
Like, forget that. Put me in the bot side.
Level 1, so good. And obviously, Ezreal level 1, relatively strong. Yuumi levels anything before her first item, relatively weak.
Also, Patrik has cleanse here, so even though they do lose the heal.
Gonna lock up the Yuumi. Stun is there. Good bit of damage onto Torre, but fantastic reaction speed coming out from the side of Patrik.
Yep, so Patrik still has that cleanse, by the way. He doesn't have the flash anymore, though. So, should be worried, but now with the E, should be able to dodge away from any sort of initiation from Limit. Of course, if Limit does connect with the Zenith Blade, he should be able to follow Ezreal through the Arcane Shift. But going back towards the Aftershock in the top lane, because I do think it's interesting, especially on one of these newer champions, sort of digest that, especially in the matchup versus Aatrox. Watch when he times his E, you know, his CC that will pull in Aatrox, because he should be using that around the time that Aatrox sets up for his 3rd cast on Q. That's the highest damage Q that Aatrox will be able to pump out, and it also means that Expect should be basically melee range of him. So that's going to be the object there, and then of course having Aftershock when you get into the team fights later on is also going to be really high value, especially if you pick up like the beefy Sejuani and then teleport yourself into the middle of the enemy team. You're going to want those extra resistance.
And I like that they don't really have a true tank, but this is making Sett more of a true tank for this composition, which may want that beefy front line, especially to deal with, as we mentioned, a champion like Ezreal. You know, obviously Trick being spotted out in the jungle by Expect with that extra additional lane priority is going to be a bit rough for SK early on, but Trick happy to farm anyway.
Yeah, I think Caedrel might actually run into some problems because he was pathing to go for the double Scuttlecraft, but the bot lane of SK is already here.
Lockup is there. Crownshot walking in. Only level 2 though for Crownshot. Still level 4 for Caedrel. Heal is going to come down. That's a sleepy Leona. Limit now going to be in trouble. Jenax getting trouble to finish this one off. They're going to chase him down though. If Jenax gets a kill here, it'll get the Kassadin snowball rolling. For now though, SK falling woefully far behind, and Torre's there just in the nick of the time. Is it going to be enough? The Ezreal on the way, and Caedrel going down. Jenax getting the kill, but Crownshot's just next on the menu.
And Mickey's above them.
This is an absolute disaster. Excel coming out on top with another kill. This time going over to the Karthus. Jenax trying to fight back, running for his life, using that magic damage shield. Trick just waiting over wall. If they walk into the skills, they might just die. Mickey now going forward. One more force pulse, maybe a bit more damage. Are they in trouble? They're gonna get another kill. This is a disaster.
Oh no! Trick just missed so many Qs over that wall. And he didn't have blue buff either, so he's gonna run out of mana completely there. That fight got crazy because at the start, you think SK, of course they have the advantage. Both of their, you know, their ADC and their support made the rotation towards mid lane, but Trick was a little bit behind them. So it was just sort of a 2v2 at the start, especially with this early level Kassadin in mid that can't offer too much.
And we move in, and this is very difficult because you got a level 2 Crownshot and a level 2 Limit. Very big challenge.
And Mickey has redemption for this fight as well, so that comes through his top lane.
Hold that thought. Caedrel moving into the top side. The immediate flash out from Sacre is going to back off, however.
Can we see that replay again? That was pretty sweet. Regardless.
Well, I think what you missed was the following portion of the replay, which was
Here we go.
Unmitigated disaster. For both, I'm gonna say for both sides, this was an incredibly messy fight.
Yeah, so Caedrel actually ticked over to level 4 due to minions going down in the mid lane, then of course gets the heal and all the CC down onto Limit. So he drops pretty much immediately, and now SK are like, oh, we're fine. But Caedrel gets away, and now Torre, who's roaming up, is able to give the speed up towards Caedrel, so Jenax and Crownshot both have to run towards Patrik. Meanwhile, Trick tried to walk into the Dragon Pit, but now he's zoned. Like, all he can do is offer Qs over the wall because he doesn't have a flash, and Mickey, of course, coming down from the top, can offer so much. Mickey picking up, I think, 2 or 3 flashes during this entire exchange, and they're playing it very well, where they're just standing outside of the Q range, and of course they can see Trick over the wall with that ward too, so like, it was just really nicely done from Excel, but also like, so many of those Qs go wide from Trick. It was unfortunate.
Okay, someone gift that. The side eye coming in from Crownshot there.
He's not happy.
We might suspect that that might have been Jenax's call. We're seeing a bit more action on the top side of the map as well. And look, there's so many things I want to talk about, but just can we update game state real quick? Excel have a small lead.
Tell me.
What does this actually mean? Because we have Kassadin getting a Catalyst a bit ahead of schedule is the biggest thing that I see. Caedrel is fine. He's got a Bomby Cinder. It doesn't feel like this is too impactful because it was such an even trade overall, but what does this actually mean, that early fight?
It is sort of a big deal here because Excel's comp is built, I think, around especially like 1 to 2 items. That's where they have a clear advantage over SK, who need time to ramp up with the Karthus and the Misfortune, some items on those. Kassadin, of course, as well. So XL, even just getting a slight lead here, is going to be very, very impactful, especially when flashes go down and Sejuani is going to be sick soon as well. It gives you gank opportunities, of course. Bot lane, just some good poke here on a Patrik.
Damage. Clean double up comes in from Crownshot, but they don't really have any follow-up here.
Yeah.
You can't fully commit. It's nigh impossible to actually kill the Ezreal in this lane with the Yuumi to back him up.
Yeah, and if you're just sort of like looking at the gold between all these lanes, it's not like there's a huge advantage anywhere for these two sides. There's just a couple hundred gold for Excel in each lane. It's Trick making up a lot of that gold in the jungle, of course. On this Karthus, you're going to be able to power farm, so that's the trade-off that SK are making. As I see, Mickey just picked up a second redemption in the mid lane there too, so feels really fun to beat Jenax in this.
RNG always a wonderful, wonderful portion of the game.
Yeah, but basically all XL have to do is sort of get through the rest of this laning phase, I think, which shouldn't be much of an issue because there's not a lot of playmaking opportunities from SK, and then look to sort of unlock with your sort of 4-man here. I think Zoe plus Ezreal plus Yuumi next to each other is going to be really good at finding picks inside of the enemy jungle and just chasing people down.
One thing I do want to acknowledge, though, is how carefully SK are playing around the top side of the map. When we saw the Aatrox and the Sejuani on the same team, we thought this game would be all about top side. And it makes sense when you look at Caedrel's top lane jungle proximity. 13, highest in the league, spends a decent chunk of his time around the top side of the map. However, because of that skirmish, because of that fight, it doesn't feel like he's gotten a lot of chances. He's shown his face there one time so far in the game, but hasn't really had the impact, I think, that they were hoping to find with the Sejuani-Aatrox combo.
Yeah, and I feel like you've almost sort of missed the point where you can gank that lane. It's a Sett, so he already has a lot of survivability. He has Aftershock as well, and there's Karthus on the enemy team too. So that can always turn around these types of fights where you can't immediately get the kill. Also notice that Sacre smartly went for the Bramble Vest first item here, which is going to be really effective against Aatrox. If he's trying to weave in auto attacks in any of his trades, he's going to have his healing reduced significantly. And now Limit constantly on the roam here, looking for a play in top side.
Set up, the ulti coming in. Pushing Expect away from the fight, though.
What?
Did he want to... I guess they're just trying to burn him down for a Karthus ultimate? Yuumi's in the area. Karthus ult coming out. The cat going to remount. The heal coming out. That's got to be disappointing for Trick. Cannot find the kill on his former teammate.
Yep. Trick did not realize Torre was in the area on the roam himself, because that's another factor in this game is whenever you have a Yuumi on the map, she's not really great at roaming, you know, on her own. She really needs to pair up with a jungler like you see from Torre now as they start up the Herald. So Limit often trying to find these rotations, and that's 2 times in a row now that they haven't quite panned out.
4 members from both teams committed to this. Immediately we see running over, though, is the Sett. Sacre coming back to this play.
Oh no. That's all going to be a lot of damage.
Ooh, huge damage on the Limit. Now the extra resistances are keeping him alive for now. Body block comes in from Trick, but definitely not what they wanted. Bullet time goes in. Caedrel going to find the kill, and SK going to walk away empty-handed.
Yeah, SK really wanted to force a round there, but get hit by the bubble over the wall and punish so dramatically. Mickey on point with those so far. Only 4 assists to his name, but racking up. Already you can see how Excel, when they group up with these 4 players, have a lot of power. They can find fights just playing off of skill shots. They never really have to commit too much because they have all these range CCs, the slows in order to find you out. And that's just going to mean that SK have to be really on top of things when they're walking around. They need vision over walls, or they will get hit by bubbles. They need to be immediate on their engages, or they will be whittled down over time.
And as you look back at this play, you can see confidence to engage here, but ultimately what this is really about is just Limit overstaying, and playing against a Zoe is such a nightmare because we've experienced in solo queue. If you stand near a wall against a Zoe and you don't know where she is, you're probably dead.
Yeah, it feels real unfortunate there from Limit to not have any vision over that wall. And you can even see SK, they were moving Sacre over towards that side of the map because he didn't have TP and Expect did. So it was very clear the team wanted to make a play around Herald. But you have to be very cautious, and these are the mistakes that will cost SK advantages, especially in this mid game where they're already going to be exploitable.
Yeah, but the thing we have to remember is that the Karthus and the Kassadin, to a certain degree, are a ticking time bomb. Now, admittedly, there's a lot of time left on that one. But it is level 8 Trick to level 7 Caedrel, so decent lead built up by the Karthus thus far. And that early skirmish wall, it may not have amounted to too much, did mean that Jenax got to level 6 that much more comfortably and is not suffering from some of the lane deficits we might normally see a Kassadin have to deal with.
And one of the things we're going to look for, 20 minutes down the line is just like, can Excel match Jenax in the side? Look, I mean, if you're trying to give me
3 games from now, yeah, I mean, you're right, 20
3
minutes.
games from now, Excel or SK is still not going to have a level 18 card.
Rumor has it they're still scaling to this day.
But Jenax, you already see him in a side lane. This is where he wants to be with the teleport. When he hits level 16, I don't think anyone can match him on the side of Excel. Mickey surely can't. Expect for a while can, especially if he has, more gold than Jenax should have favorable itemization, a lot of healing. But post 2 items, I think the Aatrox is going to start falling off relative to this Kassadin. It's just going to continue to ramp up as he gets a Rabadon's, an extra AP scaling when he finishes off a Lich Bane as well. All these items give him some of the best late game DPS one-on-one in the game.
Dive setups there for Sacre. He's going to dunk him right back into the team, and the ML pulled out coming out. No chance! Knocked out, but it is the top lane tower being knocked down by the side of XL in trade for a few plates off the bottom side and the life of Expect.
And the Infernal Drake too, so SK gonna get some decent value out of this play, especially with a lot of damage dealers on their side, even though the actual buff from Infernal is not as glorious as it was in past years. That's a trade they are going to be comfortable taking in a game like this.
Now, of course, they're going to be on an Ocean Rift. Will be important for for a lot of champions on both sides of the map. Obviously, a lot of spamming for both these teams. Ocean Soul, one of the most powerful. My worst one to play against, I would definitely say. So, see who can actually get that. I imagine it'll mostly just be the arena for both these lineups, but I think an opportunity for both sides to reset. Now, important as we look at the itemization to note a few things. Obviously, huge CS discrepancy in the bottom lane built up by Patrik. Well done by him, and additionally, starting to come into that Ezreal power spike. I said we say it every game last game, and that means I have to say it again this game. He's looking strong, and the Luden's Echo is on the way for Mickey as well, so this should be the point where XL, if they're going to take over the game, start to make things happen.
Look, I actually didn't even notice this at the start of the game, but this isn't the lethal tempo Ezreal we were talking about in the last game that's sort of been dominating in solo queue. Instead, it is going to be press the attack Ezreal, which is something I feel like we don't see a ton of. Now, ever since Kleptomancy was lost, the primary rune choice for Ezreal has been in the precision tree. Before lethal tempo, we were seeing, I saw a little bit of press the attack, but also Conqueror felt pretty decent on Ezreal.
It's a bug. He has lethal tempo.
It's a bug
in the overlay. I've just been told it's a bug in the overlay.
Okay.
Don't pick this in solo queue. It's lethal tempo all the way.
I was trying to find.
You're like ready. You're like theory crafting. You're like extra damage from the Yuumi.
Look, he autos, he Qs, he autos again. He's procced it.
It's like electrocute, but not as great in some circumstances. And here's the thing. The other question that we asked Ender is, like, what is Sacre going to do in this game? What is Sacre going to look like? And he's actually laying the smackdown on Expect in this 1v1 lane. Expect has just been forced out of lane. He may have to TP back. But now we see an engage coming in from Caedrel. I think he's very much overstayed as well.
TP behind from Jack. That's a double TP.
Now moving in, looking to get the fight kicked off. Patrik is going to need to find a way out of this one. Leona misses. Definitely not what they wanted, but he gets suplex back into the team. Goodbye to Patrik. Woo! I'm sorry, every time I see that ult, I just have to pop off. It is so cool. And SK just turned this game on its head, and the gold is now tied up, and everything is looking good for this lineup.
Yeah, that's the snap decision-making I was waiting to see from SK. Do not play the battle of attrition against XL's comp. Just go for the big moves, and they're able to pull it off right there. Not even giving, like, Patrik, he has flash, he has cleanse, but there's no way to escape from the flank suplex, as you call it there, from Sacre's Sett. Mickey did pick up a TP in that place, so... Oh no.
Showstopper. Yeah, I have to respect Jenax, too. Ender, I went from very confident in Excel at one item to very concerned for them for the rest of this game.
I mean, it's all in the setup, right? They go super deep up here towards the top side. Weren't expecting Trick to be around this side of the map, so they say, okay, we're going to have to call off the dive here. But now, the double TP comes in immediately, and it really is just Patrik and Tori here by themselves. There's nowhere for them to go. Patrik tries to dodge away from the Zenith Blade, but Excel very clearly call that play off. And Tori's just crawling away from the body of his dead ADC, like, Caedrel, come back!
And if you watch the Ezreal very closely, you can see it looks like he tries to start the Arcane Shift animation, and it just is not fast enough.
Yeah.
Immediately gets suppressed, dunked back. And now SK are feeling fine, feeling very much in control of this game. And this is where you have to be really scared, because the pick potential with the Kassadin, with the Leona, is very, very real. Patrik additionally looks like he's opting for the Trinity Force, so while he will do a lot more damage, it's going to be a lot harder for him to get away from a lot of these champs. We're going to get the cleanse out of him quite easily.
Yeah, that's the big initiation we need to see. So now that the cleanse is gone, can Delimit find that in about a minute or so when that ultimate does return? Will be the question, because otherwise you just get chased down like this. And something we were talking about earlier too is like, how do SK actually find a fight into Excel? Because we saw that play down bot side and it worked really, really well for them. But this is a slippery T from Excel. They have a lot of CC to their name as well. So it has to be those solid plays or you just get killed.
That's going to be the follow-up, the lockdown, and knocked out. That is the non-committal CC, the poke potential of this XL lineup. It's definitely not a poke comp, but it's certainly got more than its fair share of poke.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can turn into that, and especially around sieges, like when people are like bundled up underneath the tower, you're just absolutely gonna wreck. But the reason why I don't really like identifying comps as poke comps is because it implies that's all they can really do.
Well, and it's just not, poking is not really a win condition.
Yeah, it's, I mean, on an ocean map too, where you can pick up honey fruits all over the map, but this is one where it's just a snipe comp. Yeah, it's a snipe comp, because you snipe him with all your abilities from super far away, and then he's like, I'm asleep, wake up, please. No, you're dead.
Wow, that was so concise, so accurate. Wake up, please.
Wake up. I mean, that's all Limit can hope for is like,
Yeah, ooh, brutal. Expecting to finish the Black Cleaver, but sadly, right as Trick is already finished. 2-0-2 now for the Karthus. Level 11. Double flat pen items completed. We'll have to see what the third item is going to be now. And they're going to shred through this Ocean Drake. SK are feeling, once again, quite comfortable. I'm impressed. I thought it'd be difficult to match Excel in the early game after what we've seen from them in past weeks, but this SK does seem to be quite confident in what looked at first to be a somewhat questionable composition.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at like gold, right, Excel still have a lead, but in terms of levels, SK have a really big advantage. 1 level top lane, 2 levels in the jungle. Jenax was 12 before Mickey hit 12 too, so like the levels they're waiting on are just coming sooner and sooner and sooner as Trick unlocks that massive Requiem and items start to come on through behind them too. So again, this is the period of time in the next 10 minutes where I feel that Excel do need to take control over this game. That means, you know, getting vision inside the enemy jungle, threatening a Baron start once that becomes a reality too, and maybe even using, right, they have a Rift Herald. You know, force SK to group up under a tower and then snipe them out with all their abilities again. Like, we already saw them pull that off.
That setup should be easy, especially if they can get a bit of proactive vision control in the enemy jungle. For now, it's just a ward over the Raptor wall. They do have mid lane priority though. Mickey going to use that Stolen Ghost just to threaten a little bit more.
Yeah, Excel need to group up as 5 here with the Herald too, because their comp is really bad about spreading out to all 3 lanes, right? Like, neither Ezreal or Zoe want to be in a side lane. Yuumi is a good champion when she's sort of like grouped up in the mid, but she doesn't really want to like roam and look for these big initiations on side lanes unless you're like splitting the map straight up. So this is a situation where SK, if they can use wave clear ults, right, like the bullet time from Misfortune to stall out a push, all of a sudden Jenax and Sacre get the CS that they desperately want.
I think the thing that we're seeing right now, 1, XL laying that vision down on the top side of the map that I love, but 2, them only having a single point of pressure in the mid lane means it was so easy for Crownshot to just bullet time the wave and deny the entire push.
So now Excel are like, okay, it's ocean map, we have bigger bushes, that means we should be able to step forward further and look for picks. SK obviously going to have a lot of trouble getting vision inside the river, but hey, we're still 30 seconds away from Baron spawning, and once Baron does spawn, it'll be a while, I think, before Excel feels super comfortable just start that one up. They don't have a ton of damage.
And there's no attack speed on the MF. She'll do a decent amount of damage. You have a Karthus to shred through it on the side of SK, but
it's
Ezreal,
Excel that really struggles.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying, like, even SK aren't exactly shredding through it at this point in the game. Maybe another item.
Look, SK are just like, we're going to sort of sit back for now. We're going to give ourselves some time, because eventually, like, SK could just straight up win this game without ever really forcing a fight, right? Like, they can just send Jenax into a side lane with a Karthus ult from above, too. He's like, you just can't 1v1 me. And once the Lich Bane comes through, like, that guy pushes real fast.
Lots of damage going in. Patrik, though, slowed, immediately has to cleanse. And the thing is I just feel like what we've seen from this Ezreal so far is you just outscale it. You just sit and you wait, and eventually he's not that useful.
Again, the thing is, though, very hard to lock him down. We just saw Limit try that.
Oh, ulti gonna miss.
And it didn't work out, so this time it is the Herald going in towards mid. They can't get the tower, though, so SK should be able to step forward and clear that one away.
Still the poke raining down.
Yep. Oh, bot lane, big trade coming through from Sacre. Both flashes were blown. No ultimate from Trick, though. I don't think Expect was quite in range to have lethal on that one. Oh, man.
CP Kassadin, they're forced back. Excel holding on a mid lane priority for now. The poke may not have been the defining feature, but will allow them to continuously gain access to this tower.
Mana bars are so low on Excel that they're like really sticking around to try and finish this one off, and lucky to find that one before SK could group up and find any kind of initiation. Without any wards behind Excel, like even having the double TP, like that's where SK would love to find a double TP flank once again, but they just haven't had control over any of the maps, so they're going to have to cede that tower, and now it becomes even more difficult for them to maintain vision in their own side of the map. The second Excel get back onto the map, it's going to be walk into that topside jungle, sweep everything away, and once again, SK are living in darkness.
Difficult place to play from. We talked about it already. The Zoe just makes it that much more of a nightmare, because you never know what bush is just instantly going to get you killed. But now, Jenax getting shadowed, of course, by the Leona, just making sure that he is safe here. And take a look at that bottom side play again. Very aggressive.
Yeah, that's the Trinity Force completion there from Sacre too.
Yeah, and at this point, Black Cleaver coming out from the side of Expect. Cooldown reduction, nice to have. They're going to chase down Jenax, but I'm not sure about this one. Trick has to be careful, though, because Trick is really the one who is actually vulnerable here. Caedrel dashing forward, baiting, trying to think that they're going to throw the ult. Trick the one getting caught out in the end. The shutdown goes there, and Excel now just want to back off, get away from that Karthus corpse, and it's Trick who overstays.
Yeah, and move towards the Baron now as well. You know, we're only 22 minutes of the game, but the jungler from SK is down. Doesn't seem like Excel are feeling that confident, though. Instead, it's turning this into a top lane siege, but at the same time, mid lane's getting pushed through as well. So while this will be a tower-for-tower trade, more than likely, what this means is that SK got the more valuable tower. Mid lane going to open things up and mean that Excel don't have quite that same level of safety when it comes to setting up mid lane pushes, but they're able to stop it.
But now here comes the Aatrox Yuumi.
Oh no, it's the whole flank too, because Caedrel and Mickey are coming around all the way for this loop.
Sacre is going to be in trouble here. No real way to dash out of this one. Limits debating about when they go in. Crownshot here with big damage, something that they definitely have to respect. For now, Sacre is running. Mickey now coming in. Haymaker going over. Leona in the midst of the entire team. Crownshot waiting over the wall, debating when is the ult? When is it going to come out? The rest of SK flashing away. Jenax on the backside. He's come back.
Oh!
Now they're going to be in trouble. Lots of damage coming in from that Kassadin.
Crownshot just got nuked right there. So SK able to get out with all 5 members, but they're poked out. Limit had to use his flash too. So it will be the Drake going into the hands of Excel. And SK just going to be comfortable with that. They say we give up we give up the Drake, but we keep our members alive, and now XL can't force it.
But at a certain point, end of the story has to be something other than giving up, because you see topside vision completely in control of XL. SK don't really have any stake on the map right now.
Yeah, the thing is, like, yes, they have lost control, and that makes it very difficult for them to like play forward in this game, especially if XL try to do something proactive around the Baron. But if the game slows down, SK are fine. They're down 2,500 gold right now for this type of composition. Like, they don't care. They're almost at a point where they're winning, because now Jenax, he has the fully stacked Rod of Ages. He has the Lich Bane. He's 2 levels away from that level 16 when his ultimate is like half a second cooldown. It's just absolutely insane. So once that hits, like, he can just continue to roll into a side lane and say, come at me. And Excel are going to reach a point where they don't have anyone that can match him. And that point is probably already now, if I'm being honest. I don't think Expect can win an extended fight against Kassadin.
No. Probably not. What do you call it, going to be denied there?
Clear the ward.
That's just a ward. Okay, he figured out why they were able to see him.
It's like, this guy's hacking.
Crownshot's on the case. He has solved the case.
Ooh, do they start at Baron now? So they know Crownshot wanted to reset. They're just going to start at Baron.
There's a double TP, though. They could look to contest. They're not going to lose much health moving in for this one. The Yuumi will keep them all topped off, but they have to be careful. Kassadin, of course, has been spotted out. They're going to pull back. They're just looking for picks, just trying to bait SK in.
So I like that gambit there from XL. They were trying to, like, they were peacocking around that Baron, right? They're just like showing it. They didn't actually want to go for that Baron. They were really trying to draw a teleport out from a Sacre or a Jenax. Unfortunately, they couldn't get that. They weren't quite willing to commit more of the health bars to that objective. So it is Jenax going into side lane once again, and XL are in this awkward position where, well, Expect really wants to be with this team. He wants to be with it. He wants to have a Yuumi on top of him so he can get into these fights, but now Excel are just, no, go into a side lane, clear out the waves, try to wave clear as best you can, because if Jenax can't hit towers, the split push win condition doesn't really activate for them.
And Excel, good to see that they're playing smart, good to see that they're limiting some of the options here for SK. Once again, the pressure is on them to make something happen. They weren't able to bait a teleport out. They do have perfect vision control. They will eventually just need to start this Baron.
Wouldn't that be great?
Or find a pick, right? And eventually, SK are going to have to, without any real information on the pit, walk into this jungle. For now, though, they're keeping their focus on mid lane priority, trying to get as much free vision, as much free control as possible via the minions.
So one thing we've already seen, Jenax has to be careful here. Oh, no.
He's going to try to make it out to safety. Good bit of shielding comes out there. the Null Sphere, but won't be able to get anything else.
Well, all the threat goes away now, because that's like one of the big engage tools. Of course, don't walk into the Fog of War unless you can see the majority of the enemy team on the map, so don't get picked that way. But Excel shouldn't be able to start up this Baron.
And a brief window of opportunity here. Sacre is pushing out on the bottom side. That's why you see Expect cheating up into the mid lane. Can now set his sights on the Baron pit. It is getting pinged out by Excel, but SK feeling pretty confident, knowing those cooldowns are down, to step in to start to contest some of this vision. They'll use the blue trinket. It won't sustain vision, but it will show them that the Baron has not been started.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to bring up too, is right now you have 3 blue trinkets.
Limit.
Oh no.
Got out again. Buys a bit more time, as much as he can with the stopwatch, but it simply will not be enough. Leona getting taken out. Trick has to be careful as well, but that is the 4th time Leona has gone down this game.
Dude, Mickey just keeps finding Limit. Limit having a terrible time walking into the Fog of War. Of course, like, that is his role with this type of composition. Now it happens to Jenax.
He's gonna step back.
He has a lot more safety, of course, built into his kit, though. Stopwatch, too, working on the Zhonya's Hourglass as his 3rd item. But, like, this is a big problem for SK, especially now they don't have the person with all the wards. So they have 1 blue trinket available, and they have Trick, who can scout with his W inside of the pit.
Jenax feeling just very confident to step forward. Caedrel's ult is off cooldown. In theory, they can just chain CC him down. He has the stopwatch. Gives himself a bit of space, a bit more cooldowns to work with, but closer and closer to the level 16, and it's not just a meme. Level 16 Kassadin is, it's not impossible to win a game, but it is definitely pretty close to.
Yeah, and we've been talking about scaling a lot in this game, right? We say SK wins scaling. And I think like that's a pretty fair assessment to make when you have like this scaling jungler in the Karthus, the Kassadin mid lane as well. But that doesn't mean their team fight is easy to execute. That doesn't mean it's impossible for XL to win when we get way later on too, because as I said before we got into all the pauses at the start of the game, it is going to be Patrik in these fights that Jenax is trying to assassinate. We're at the point now where Patrik has a QSS and a cleanse, so Limit can't jump on him. That's the only real reliable engage tool. I mean, even if Sacre goes for a flank TP again, there's the QSS to break Patrik out of his ultimate. So it really will be up to Jenax in 5v5s to really put the punishment down onto Patrik. Kill him is the obvious best case scenario, but if you can force him to like arcane shift over the wrong wall where he's zoned out of the rest of the fight, that will also do the trick here for SK.
I do feel like it's going to take a lot of confidence from SK though, because their team fights are going to feel, I think, a little bit split. They don't really have the clearest front to back of the Kassadin on their team, and a Karthus who can't really afford to step forward against this enemy lineup. Mickey though, once again, finding the sleepy trouble bubbles. It's like they're attracted to Limit. He has his own gravitational pull for sleepy trouble bubbles. Crownshot though.
Oh, I don't know if you needed that
flash.
Flash. Okay. Like, it takes 3 waves to hit you. He'd been hit by 1. There was a 2nd wave coming, so I think he definitely did not need to use that one right there. Now losing the cleanse as well, of course, means he's super, super vulnerable. If you get hit by a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, you are going to go down unless, you know, Limit or someone else is able to block it.
I think it's just a constant kind of keeping your eyes on the Zoe, as well as the Sejuani, just to see where the picks are going to come from, where XL can find advantages. Just for now, focus very much on maintaining control of the mid lane, pushing out the minion wave, laying down a bit of vision, pushing out the minion wave, backing off, getting a bit more farm left and right.
And I'm falling asleep, Drakos.
I know, it's very clear order to things.
You lost me at push out mid lane the first time.
Why? Fight there. That's what mid lane's for.
So I've heard. No, XL.
Ooh, double level 16s, by the way.
Yeah, just
happened.
Thank you. Going to I said this like 30 minutes ago. Just going to a side flip.
You did say in 20 minutes, and we're like a minute away from that point. That's the thing. I love watching Kassadin work, but getting to the point where you get to watch Kassadin work is a bit of a slog. Not gonna lie.
Look at this from XL though. They're actually sneaking everyone pretty much into the spot lane, or at least the duo partners.
Ooh, they have to be careful though, because the Yuumi's on the way, and that's a fat finger on the ult.
Wait, who ulted?
Expect.
Oh.
Pull back. His ulti is now gone. Jenax is stepping forward. Sacre's in the midst of the fight too. He's going to dunk back the Haymaker. He's going to try to buy a bit more time, get a bit more damage down, but nothing's going to happen there. I'm going to say well baited by Expect with the use of the ultimate there. Easy kill pickups for Excel. The Sett not doing much of anything.
Okay, I actually really think Excel should move in towards Baron now. We've talked about some of the issues potentially with their comp, but right now they're so strong. 3 items in mid lane for Mickey with the Rabadon's finish. Blade of the Rune King for Patrik as well. So Baron cutting potential is going to be there. And now with Sacre gone, that's a major engage tool out of the fight for 27 seconds before he can TP in. This is the opportunity. Look for Zoe picks over the walls and bubbles, or just go over with Patrik.
Patrik just getting incredibly aggressive right off the bat. Not going to take it. Not scared of Leona anymore. Justice for every AD carry who's ever been solo killed by that champion.
Okay, but go back to the Baron, please. Like, you took your DPS to go kill Limit. That's good. Now zone away with 2 members in the pit. This is exactly the right setup for Excel. Make sure Trick does not get close.
8k health. Trick trying to walk forward, but this is the weakness.
Jenax!
Really get to the point. Jenax incredibly strong. Doesn't have enough time to push it. The hourglass, it will not come through. Excel find the fight that they were looking for. The level 16 Kassadin, simply not enough for SK, and that's going to be the Baron for Excel. Massive advantage for this team.
Mickey just baiting in Jenax right there while the rest of his team smacks Trick down. They get the 2 strongest champions at this point in the game at the same time and easily secure themselves the Baron. They played it very cautiously around that objective, waiting for almost the perfect setup for it, but now that they have it, their comp is absolutely deadly. It's so hard for SK to initiate on them. It's so hard for SK to clear the waves outside of a bullet time, and it is so easy for Excel to just hit you with skill shots as the wave's coming through and just nuke you from a mile away.
Yeah, because let's talk about it. Karthus' wave clear has to use delay waste. Decently long animation. Makes it very easy for Ezreal to land a Q, for Zoe to land a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. MF, if we see Crownshot trying to use the ulti in the same way to clear the waves, he's stunning himself and allowing every single piece of poke to land. And the bigger concern now, too, is that while Aatrox might not be the strongest member on this Excel lineup, expect with the Yuumi attached, can just force everybody off this tower.
This is really nice from Excel, too. They timed the minion waves really nice. Okay, there's a TP in coming from Jenax. This is going to be the fight from SK. They want to fight before
getting
the siege.
Back. It's a sleepy Leona. They're trying to get a bit more damage down on the Zoe. It's maybe enough time. Jenax now going in. Patrik versus Jenax is the fight that you need to watch. The rest of the fight inconsequential, but Jenax is forced back. Expect, sees him, smells blood in the water, and that's going to be an SK are getting dunked down the Requiem. What is it actually going to do? Absolutely nothing.
It's 1 for 2 trade in the end. Mickey goes down, but the health bars are just so low. Like, what? Excel, they're going to be able to walk into the base now. They're going to get 2 inhibitors easily. The question is, do they want to go for more? Because I agree, without any of the front line here from SK, their composition sucks. Like, Jenax has to 1v9.
Yeah, Trick is just walking in and dying.
What?
He knows that he just has to clear the wave. He's just trying to get maximum value out of the Karthus passive, and Jenax just doesn't have the cooldowns. The Ezreal does too much damage. The Yuumi backing him up makes him unkillable. The trades are just not in his favor. Jenax maybe, just maybe they can get something done, but it has to go now. Crownshot knocked up, Jenax going forward. Limit now walking in, but they're not going to get anything. It's so slow and controlled from the side of Excel, waiting for the healing to come in from the Yuumi before they push for more. Patrik shredding through this tower. This is a masterclass in Ezreal. Sidestep on the Zenith Blade. He's not even threatened. Ease back anyway. He's not concerned. Jenax, though, going in, trying to get something done, and here comes Sacre into the midst of the fight. Wants to dunk, expect back into the team, but it will not happen. Caedrel's ult comes up just in time, and that's going to be it. Excel finding the win.
From 0 to 100 real quick, right?
Yes.
We were waiting for a long time for